And welcome to Time About the Movies. Today we are taking a look at the three films that make up July 6th, 2012. And we start off with the biggest of the new releases, and that is, of course, The Amazing Spider-Man, which is a reboot of the Spider-Man franchise, portraying the character's origin story and his development into a superhero while still a high school student. It stars Andrew Garfield in the title role of Spider-Man and Peter Parker, Emma Stone as Gwen Stacy, Rhys Ifans as Dr. Kirk Connors, and also Martin Sheen, and Sally Field playing Peter's Uncle Ben and Aunt May. And I'll be perfectly honest, the trailers really were not selling me on this movie when this was coming out. And the only thing that really got me excited was seeing the 6-minute preview that was in front of Men in Black. And, I mean, I felt like they were going in the right direction with it. And I thought maybe this could possibly work out. And, truth be told, I really do not like these movies. I mean, it's not, I mean, look, I know I'm going to get flack for saying this, but these, to me, are the worst of the Spider-Man movies, the two Amazing Spider-Man movies. Not for the reasons you think I'm going to say they are, but, I mean, let's just get to why I don't like these movies. I'll start off with some of the things I really don't like about it. For the one thing, it's essentially just a remake of the first Spider-Man movie, except we've got different villains. Instead of the Green Goblin, we've got Kirk Connors now, who becomes the Lizard. You know, the Stacys are brought into the storyline here. There's no Mary Jane here. I mean, other than that, it's pretty much the same thing as the first film. Why not just start with the positives, because I will say that there are things I did like about the movie. For starters, the casting is great. The cast is the best thing about this movie. Andrew Garfield, I thought, did a very good job as Peter Parker. He's back to being the wisecracking Spider-Man in the comic books, and, you know, something that Tom Holland would eventually perfect with the next set of reboots. But I also like the chemistry between him and Gwen Stacy. I really like Emma Stone's Gwen Stacy a lot. And a lot of what I saw in that 6-minute preview was their relationship. You know, it's a scene where I think they're like in a high school locker, like in the high school hallway with his Uncle Ben, and they're having a conversation. It's just like, if the movie had more of that, then I could really enjoy this film. I like the fact that she does more. I like her more than Mary Jane Watson, honestly. And I like the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, but Gwen Stacy actually did more to help Peter in this than Mary Jane did in the first three movies. Mary Jane was kind of like the damsel in distress. Gwen Stacy's actually doing something in this movie. Like, I like the fact that they gave her more to do in this than Mary Jane did in the other Spider-Man films. You know, you got Dennis Leary playing her father, the head of police, which I thought was really cool. It was really cool to see Dennis Leary in a very different role than we're used to seeing him in. And Martin Sheen and Sally Field, it's Martin Sheen and Sally Field. These guys can never do any wrong, even in bad movies. I mean, Sally Field's a 2-time Academy Award winner, for God's sakes, but the special effects were pretty cool. I like the Brooklyn Bridge scene where Spider-Man saves the cars from going over and saves the kid from the car that catches on fire. It's a really good effects job overall. Of course, the great scene in the movie is where you have Stanley's cameo where he's listening to headphones in the library and you see Spider-Man and the Lizard beating the crap out of each other in slow motion with the music in the background. That's great. That's fun stuff right there. The runtime, while it is long, doesn't really bother me all that much. For 2 hours and 16 minutes, it's not that bad overall. The pacing overall isn't that bad. The music overall is really good. You got James Horner. I mean, James Horner is one of the best composers ever. I mean, it's nowhere near the greatness of Danny Elfman's Spider-Man, but, you know, Horner still has those chops to make a damn good soundtrack, even after all these years. So it seems like I really enjoyed the movie, but let's talk about the bad things in general. For one thing, I really didn't like Rhys Ifans as the villain. I like Rhys Ifans. I think he could play a very good villain, but he's just playing a stereotypical villain in here. I mean, while he does look pretty cool as the Lizard, he really doesn't have an evil plan just to turn everybody into lizards. It's just like, that's really the best you can do. And like I said, he's a great actor overall, but I'm glad to see that most of the characters in this actually got a better reintroduction with No Way Home, but we're still 9 years down the road for that. Another thing I didn't like about the movie was that they were promoting the fact that this was going to reveal all these secrets about Spider-Man that we never really knew. When they get revealed, you realize that the big secrets that we already knew about the film's TV, or things that we already knew from the films, TV shows, and comic books. There's really no secrets that are huge, except the fact that, you know, we do get that Peter's getting bitten by the spider may have not been an accident. Maybe that was supposed to happen. And for a movie that promises us the untold secrets of Spider-Man, I really didn't think they did the best job overall with it. I also didn't like how they resulted to killing off one of the characters way too early. You know, one of the characters dies early in the film, and while he's seen a lot in the film, we really don't get to know him all that much. If there had been some more character development with him, I could have brought into this, but would have been more upset when he passes away. But he just kind of feels like they kill him off way too quickly. And this movie is really trying way too hard to copy Christopher Nolan and Batman. I mean, there were points in this movie where they were literally stealing from Batman Begins. You want to do something similar to Batman Begins, that's fine. Star Trek made that work a couple years ago. But when you're literally stealing plot points from that movie, that's where I draw the line. I mean, you could do this without stealing a ton of stuff from a more successful reboot. It's just kind of like, do something new with it. Do something different. Give us a reason why you're rebooting this, instead of the fact that you're petty because Sam Raimi wouldn't bend the knee and kiss your ass to make the Spider-Man movie that you wanted him to make, instead of letting him do the movie he wants to make after he made 3 successful movies for you. Like, that's the only reason this reboot even exists, because Sam Raimi refused to do the Spider-Man 4 movie that they wanted him to do. So Sam Raimi basically said, fuck this shit, I'm out, and so now we got this movie. That's the only reason this even exists. I mean, Mark Webb is a great director, but he can't do action very well. He's a great director, but when he does the action sequences for this movie, it does not work well at all. Like, he has that same problem that Mark Forster had when he took on Quantum of Solace in 2008. Like, he didn't really have much experience directing an action sequence, and the action sequences in Quantum of Solace falter because of that, as they do in here in The Amazing Spider-Man. It's part of my big problem with, taking small directors who direct like independent movies or much smaller movies, and then telling them, hey, guess what? You're going to come in and do this big blockbuster when we clearly not have any work for you. Is when we clearly know you've never done this before, but we know you're going to make it work, pal. No, you can't do that. Like, we're seeing that way too often nowadays. We just had that last year with Twisters. They brought in the director of Minari, who never directed a blockbuster before, and that film fell apart pretty quickly. We just had Mark Webb had another movie this year that some people didn't think was all that great, Snow White, which I'm not going to say that. I don't think it was bad, but it certainly pales in comparison to something like 500 Days of Summer, which is still his epic masterpiece. But the biggest problem with this movie, as I said before, is that 85% of this movie is just a remake of the first movie. It's Peter in high school. He's getting bullied. He's getting bitten by the spider. He's testing out his powers. Uncle Ben gets killed. Peter tells Gwen, originally Mary Jane, that they can't be together at the end. It's the same movie all over again with only 15% new footage. And that's just like, I know you have to do the origin story over again, but you could have found ways to create something new with it, shake things up a little bit, give us something that we've never seen before. But no, they took the easy way out. At least with Spider-Man Homecoming and when they brought Tom Holland into the fold with Captain America Civil War, he was already Spider-Man. We didn't need an origin story of how he came to... We didn't need an origin story of how he came to be. The story was already set up. We already know the story by this point. That's why they didn't do it in the Spider-Verse movies either, because everyone knows how Spider-Man came to be. They literally say in the movie, okay, let's get through this pretty quickly, because they're just summing it up for you so we can get to the stuff we want to see. In this movie, it really makes you think that the studio thinks you're that stupid that you can't remember a movie that came out 10 years ago. Like, if you can't figure out what happened in the first Spider-Man movie and know how Spider-Man came to be, then you clearly have been living under a rock since then, which, it makes no sense whatsoever. And I was really let down by this movie. I wanted it to be good. I wanted those trailers I saw to prove me wrong and give me a good movie. I thought that preview that I saw in Men in Black 3 gave me hope of what this could really be, but it just ends up being a bland, mediocre Spider-Man movie that should have been way better considering everyone's on board. The cast is doing the best they can with the material given to them. The special effects were good, the score was really good, the runtime was great. The movie had more bad things in it than good things, but let me tell you, it's certainly a hell of a lot better than Amazing Spider-Man 2, but we won't have to wait that long, because that's coming 2 years from now. And let me tell you something. As much as I don't like Amazing Spider-Man, it's like Spider-Man 1 compared to what the hell they were doing with the second film. That abomination is something that we'll delve into very much greatly when we get to the summer of 2014. But speaking of garbage, here's our next movie that is very much the same as The Amazing Spider-Man. High potential, but steaming pile of crap at the end. Oliver Stone's Savages.
You guys are a clean business, and now the cartels are moving north.
If you want to control a man, take what they love most.
I'm gonna get you out, I promise.
7 of my men dead?
Don't mess with these these people.
You stabbed a federal agent!
Savages. Rated R.
God damn, Taylor Kitsch had a terrible 2012. I mean, you know, Battleship, John Carter, and now this. And this one is easily the... Actually, I take that back. Battleship is still pretty bad, but this is a close second. This movie is very high up there with the worst movies I've seen in 2012. I hated the hell out of this movie. You have Aaron Taylor Johnson as a University of California, Berkeley graduate and a former U.S. Navy SEAL played by Taylor Kitsch, who are top weed growers. Their product is the best in the business, and Brand provides the brain and Sean the brawn as they run their operations successfully and relatively peacefully. They also share a girlfriend played by Blake Lively, and the three-way relationship works well. One day they are approached by representatives of Elena Sanchez, played by Salma Hayek, of the Baja Cartel. She wants to go into business with them. Ben and Sean do not want to be involved with the cartel, so Elena sends her henchman Lato, played by Benicio del Toro, to kidnap Ophelia. Following the kidnap, the duo work with a corrupt DEA agent, played by John Travolta, to fight back against the cartel and rescue Ophelia. And again, like with The Amazing Spider-Man, the trailers were horrible, and the film was way too much like something we've already seen done in many other movies of this type. Scarface, Bad Boys 2. But I kept my hope alive because it's Oliver Stone. Oliver Stone has more hit and misses at that point in time. He was on kind of a little bit of a lull with Wall Street Money Never Sleeps, but here's his movie to really show that that was just a fluke, and, you know, he's going to get back on track with this movie. And, you know, Taylor Kitsch is not a bad actor. I mean, he just needs better film choices, but, you know, I should also say that I saw this the same day I saw The Amazing Spider-Man. I was hoping that, you know, after watching how disappointed The Amazing Spider-Man was, I thought this was going to be the same Grace today. Nothing bad could go wrong with this movie. And once you know it, it was really, really bad. I absolutely hated this movie from the get-go. This is a movie that you could predict right as soon as it begins. Within 15 minutes, you knew what cliches they were going to go with. You knew who was going to get killed first. You knew who wasn't going to get killed. You knew what the big twist of the movie was going to be. I knew every single fucking thing about this movie 15 minutes in. This is a movie that's over 2 hours long. So, the fact that I already knew what was going to happen before we even got to the half-hour mark, and there's still 2 hours of film to go, oh, fuck you. Like, this movie, where do you even begin with how bad this is? First off, the love triangle makes no sense whatsoever. There's no way there could be a successful story where the girl gets two guys and the two girls don't fight over her. That's bullshit point number one. Bullshit point number two, Salma Hayek is the main villain. I'm sorry, but you can't convince me that she's the leader of a drug cartel. I mean, yeah, she could do villainous roles, but I'm sorry. This is a prime example of what happens when I say that most females cannot play villain roles very well, because this is example number one of how not to play a villain role. This movie is way too much for Salma Hayek. They miscast her big time in this. Bullshit point number three, Blake Lively's narration is so overblown, and like this movie, every single thing said has already been said in other movies. Plus, I hate that line from you know, just because I'm telling the story doesn't mean I'm alive at the end. It's that kind of story. Well, it's just like, thank you for spoiling the movie at the very beginning, but like I said, I already figured out where you were going to go with it 15 fucking minutes in. And the biggest problem with this movie, as I said, everything has been done before in other movies. This movie is not clever whatsoever. This movie isn't slick. This isn't trying to be anything engaging or new. No, they have all these hot young actors with a couple of seasoned vets in there, and they're hoping that that's going to be the thing that's going to push people into the seats. And sadly, that did not happen at all. This thing crashed and burned big time. And for Oliver Stone, this was really the point of no return for him, because you know, what happened to him? I mean, he made all these great movies. Platoon, JFK, Natural Born Killers, Any Given Sunday, World Trade Center, W. And then after that, it's just kind of like, his career just came crashing down. Like, my God, what happened to you, dude? Like, I mean, Wall Street Money Never Sleeps was bad, but this is worse. This is ungodly awful. Like, the trailers at least were promising you something that you're not going to like, and sure enough, I didn't like this. This movie has nothing of value to it. The acting is so mediocre, the villains are stupid, the story is terrible, you can predict everything that's going to happen in the first 15 minutes. This is one of the worst movies I've ever seen. This is a terrible, terrible, terrible movie. Have you got the point? Savages is fucking terrible, plain and simple. So after all of this negativity we've had today, let's end the show on a much more positive note, because who would have guessed that a weekend that includes a new Spider-Man movie and a new film by Oliver Stone, it's Katy Perry Part of Me that's the winner of the week.
What happens when you got her on TV? You're not gonna watch it if you got half your clothes off.
She ain't gonna have half her clothes off.
Too much? Okay, go.
This is my journey. The highs and lows.
I'm losing my marbles.
I've made mistakes, but I don't regret anything.
Katy Perry, part of me. In good, shall I say?
Yeah, believe it or not, this actually was probably the best overall movie I saw this week, and it was really a big surprise in general because, I mean, it gave you more than you were expecting it to be. I was expecting it to be just another Justin Bieber Never Say Never, but no, it's much more than that. It tells the story of Katy Perry's career as a gospel singer that started off in 2004, in the early 2000s, until the present day, where she's become a pop singer and global superstar, and bearing testimony from her about her childhood, talking about the teenage dream era that was going on around that time, and scenes from backstage of her last world tour, while taking the time to resolve personal problems, including her divorce from British comedian Russell Brand at the time. And like I said, and music documentaries overall have been hit and miss. Michael Jackson's is easily the best ones we've gotten up to this point. The Madonna and Rolling Stones ones were really good. The two YouTube concert movies are alright. The Justin Bieber movie was not terrible, but still really did not need to exist. But, you know, this one in particular I thought worked a whole lot better than the Justin Bieber one, mostly because you're getting more than you expected. Most people who are fans of Katy Perry, I don't think really knew that she was originally a gospel singer at first. Kind of the same thing with Nelly Furtado. No one realized that, you know, she began her career as a Christian singer and then wanted to become the pop star that she did in the 2000s. And, you know, this movie overall, it's a fun movie. It's not a classic by any means necessary. There's nothing really that spectacular about it, but it's a movie that is strictly for fans of Katy Perry's music, which I like Katy Perry's music. I think one of the more intriguing aspects of the movie is that you get a backstory of how she went from playing Christian music to becoming, you know, this woman who literally has a music video where she's taking Ready Whip cans, placing her on her boobs and squirting out whipped cream at people in music videos. Like, how the hell does that happen? Like, you know, finding out how that transition went really took me by surprise. They basically said that she moved out of Hollywood, changed her music abilities around in a matter of years, and boom, here she is again. Like I also like that we got to see her in real life. She does seem like a person that, if I were friends with her, I could easily buy into it. Like I mean, this is somebody I kind of would like to hang out with overall. I mean, the best thing about the documentary is that it's not afraid to show Perry at her worst. I mean, this is right when she was breaking up with Russell Brand. You do feel sorry for her, and you're amazed at the fact that even after this huge breakup, she goes to Brazil and plays this large concert the same night. Like, that's true professionalism for your craft overall, that you can still do this, even if you're going through the most tragic thing possible in a major divorce like this. Like, this movie overall works. I think the overall biggest flaw of the film is that it probably doesn't need to be in theaters overall. This is a movie released by Paramount on the big screen. You know, it was made for 3D, which, when you really look at it, there's nothing about it that says this needed to be in 3D. I mean, honestly, I saw this on a 2D screen. It really didn't. There was nothing that I saw from it really that made me say, yeah, this deserved to be seen on a 3D screen. Just like, no. Like, if you watch this on MTV or VH1, I think it's something that would work better. Hell, on Paramount Plus, it would probably work better as a documentary on there. Like, there's no real reason to go see this on the big screen at all. Unless you haven't been to a Katy Perry concert and you want to see her songs on the screen. So, I guess on that point, that works out. But overall, it works because it works if you're fans of her music. You know, it works because, you know, you get to see the documentary here. You get to know a little bit of a backstory you didn't know about her. There's nothing really bad about the movie except the fact that it doesn't need to be released in theaters. If you saw this on DVD or TV, I think it would be overall worth it. But, yeah, it's a good movie overall. I mean, like I said, not worth it for the big screen, but that doesn't take away from the overall enjoyment of the film. I really enjoyed it, and like I said, who would have guessed that this would be the best overall film in a week? In a weekend that has a Spider-Man movie and an Oliver Stone movie. I mean, I don't even know why we're saying any given Sunday, because this isn't a football metaphor, but it's just like, but yeah, strange things overall.
it was you. Just when things were coming together,
Oh, my whole familia.
See? He still hugs his parents.
it all fell apart.
Hold me.
No matter how long it takes, I will find you!
But for history's greatest heroes,
Water. Oh, hey, no. That's a little salty.
the end of the world is just the tip of the iceberg.
Ahoy down there! Surrender your ship or face my fury.
Or face your furry what?
Not furry, fury!
Courage will be tested.
Hey, little fellas, how about you and us against the pirates, huh? You got no idea what I'm saying, do you?
Treasures will be found.
It's a huge bouncy, mon capitaine.
And dignity
Care to join our scurvy crew?
Two sloths, a mammoth, and a saber? You guys are like the start of a bad joke.
will be
I don't
lost.
know what's wrong with me. I can't eat, can't sleep.
Oh, I know what you got. The L word.
Yeah, leprosy.
No, it's 4 letters, starts with L, ends with E.
Oh, yeah, lice.
No, Ray Romano, John Leguizamo, Dennis Leary, Nicki Minaj, Drake with Jennifer Lopez and Queen Latifah
Everyone, don't panic.
on July 13th. Getting home will be a trip for the ages.
No one's gonna stop me from getting back to my family.
Holy crap.
Ice Age Continental Drift.
You're pretty soft for a saber.
Excuse me, I happen to be a remorseless assassin. Diego Poo. Hey, I made you another coral necklace. He keeps losing them.
I'm speaking fast because I'm so excited. See Maggie Simpson in her first starring role in The Longest Daycare in 3D before Ice Age Continental Drift, only in theaters. We've already done the hardest part, making the poster.
Trust me, we're going to be talking more about the short that played before this movie than the actual movie itself. Welcome to Time About the Movies. As you can tell, we're not doing a full intro like we usually do because it is only one movie and it's not particularly a great one here. So let's go ahead and talk about Ice Age Continental Drift, or as I like to call it, the movie that essentially killed the Ice Age franchise for me. So this is Ice Age Continental Drift, and the story of this one is that you have Manny, Diego, and Sid embarking upon another adventure after their continent is set adrift, thanks again to Scrat, basically using his acorn to break up every bit of the world into separate countries and all that, and you know that's literally what happens in this movie here. And kind of like with Ice Age: The Meltdown, well, let me finish the plot synopsis before I get to my thoughts on this. Using an iceberg as a ship, they encounter sea creatures and battle pirates as they explore a new world. Now to the review. Much like Ice Age: The Meltdown, we got a really good premise here. The world literally crumbling around these characters and splitting up into different parts of the planet. And coincidentally, it came out in 2012, the year that everyone thought we were all going to die because of the Mayan calendar, which of course did not happen. And, I thought it was a very good premise, and much like Ice Age: The Meltdown, didn't really take full advantage of the story to make it work. Ice Age: The Meltdown at least was funny overall, but this film is not that great. I mean, this is a really lackluster sequel, and it's pretty lame, honestly. I mean, there's stuff I like about it, but there's a lot of things I really didn't like about this movie. For one thing, the story is way too predictable. I mean, you know every single time what was going to happen. It's been done numerous times. We know who's going to turn to the good side. We know who's going to be the love interest of one of the main characters. We know what the climax of the movie is going to be. Everything has been done before. They've done absolutely nothing to switch this up at all. They have way too many people in this movie because you not only have, Queen Latifah involved in this, but you've also got Drake, Nicki Minaj, Jennifer Lopez. You forget that Keke Palmer is also playing the daughter of Sid, Manny and Ellie's character, Manny and Ellie. Like the daughter is played by Keke Palmer. You got Josh Gladden here in one of his early film roles. Like, this is a movie where they don't even bother to let them sing. They're just there to be there because, hey, they're recognizable names. I mean, they sing parts of poorly written songs, and especially a terrible musical number at the end of this movie. And a lot of the older characters are really just kind of pushed off to the side. Like Crash and Eddie are very much do nothing in this movie, and they're here to do nothing but pull risky stunts when the land crumbles behind them, and then that's about it. I mean, there's only one scene that they're involved in that actually has a plot of a good joke to it, and that's with one of the new characters they have in there. Sid, in particular, is really just tossed to the side, especially after the last movie, where he was one of the big parts of that movie in general. Like, he's really not there to do much at all. Like, he's not, like his grandmother, played by Wanda Sykes, has more to do in this movie than he does. And this movie just has way too many goddamn characters into this film. They didn't learn the lesson from Shrek the Third, where they had way too many characters in this movie for no purpose whatsoever, except we gotta get these voice actors in here to have the big names in the poster on it. I mean, Shrek the Third, you had, Mike Myers, Cameron Diaz, Eddie Murphy, Antonio Banderas. That wasn't enough. No, we gotta throw in Justin Timberlake. We gotta throw in Rupert Everett back. We gotta throw in Seth Rogen. Tina is Amy Poehler, Maya Rudolph, Amy Sedaris. All these big celebrities, and it's just kind of like why? Like, why are they even in this movie? And it's the same thing here. You have a lot of the characters in this film that serve no purpose whatsoever except to have the big names on there. Keke Palmer's the daughter of Manny and Ellie, played by Keke Palmer, her friends have no purpose to be there except to be there because, hey, they're voiced by recognizable musical talents who are barely doing what they're popular for in the first place. You've even got Patrick Stewart throwing it in here for like 3 lines of dialogue, and I get it, he works on American Dad, he works on Family Guy, but at the same time, you gotta give him something to do besides just having 3 lines of dialogue in this movie. 3 lines, and there was no reason to put him in there for just those 3 lines. Like, he has more to do in Ted than he does in Ice Age Continental Drift. It's like throwing Bill Murray into Zombieland and only giving him 2 lines of dialogue, except there, he's actually really funny, and he does get more laughs there than he does in this movie. But, I mean, yeah, a lot of things I hate about this movie, but I'll give him this. There are positives that I liked about the film. It's a very short film. It's only about 90 minutes long, not including the short we're going to get to in a little bit here. It runs at a quick enough pace. It doesn't pad out the running time to give the audience a headache, except for the god-awful musical number at the end, but the animation does look better. I mean, with these movies, I'll give them credit. The animation does get better as time goes on with these films. There's a great sequence in the ocean where the main characters are riding an iceberg through a thunderstorm with the ocean waves that throwing a crab at them, literally. And, you got that line, "Holy crab!" And it's just like, But to its credit, it's a well-done sequence that actually looks pretty cool animated. Some of the new voice actors that actually play a part in the storyline, I thought were kind of good. I like Jennifer Lopez playing kind of the love interest to Dennis Leary's character. I like Peter Dinklage playing the main villain here, getting a chance to show what he can really do. I mean, there's a reason why he was one of those great actors that was out there for a long time. And the stuff with Scratch still does work. It is starting to get old a little bit fast and all. I really think they should have just let Scrat be more part of the storyline here instead of him just being the side character that kind of elevates everything else that's going on with the main characters. Like, I think it would have been cool if we actually got to see Scrat do an adventure with the rest of the characters. Like, I think that would have been a fun idea, but sadly these films have never done that. But hey, we've got a new Ice Age movie coming out in a couple years, so maybe, just maybe, they might just do that. But the visual gags I thought were okay. I mean, they actually did have some very clever gags in here, and luckily they didn't resort to having a fart joke in this movie or a gross-out humor joke, which I was actually kind of surprised by. But, I mean, to its credit, I mean, this movie is still kind of this movie is the one that really kind of pushed me off the Ice Age movies, and trust me, it gets worse with the last film they did, I think it was Collision Course, but yeah, it still lacks the heart of the original Ice Age movie, and the other 2 Ice Age movies, I will at least give credit that they were actually funny. They actually had a storyline that actually did kind of work. This is the one where I really felt like they were really pushing their luck on this and just said, fuck it, we're just going to let the kids have a good time with it. And little kids, I think, might get a kick out of it, but I really didn't enjoy this one. This was the one that really kind of pushed me off the Ice Age movies for a long period of time, and we never got a really good Ice Age thing again until we got those Scrat Tail shorts for Disney+. And like I said, we've got a 7th Ice Age movie coming out in 2027. So hopefully what Disney brings to the table, maybe they can find some new life into it. Maybe. Or maybe they're just going to make it for the sake of making another one. I don't know. But all in all, Ice Age Continental Drift's pretty much bad. But let me go ahead and talk about the one good thing that came from this. And that's that Simpsons short that they were promoting at the beginning of that trailer there, The Longest Daycare.
The summer's shortest trailer.
The Longest Daycare. July 13th only with Ice Age.
I just love the fact that Fox basically put that 12-second trailer together for no other reason, but I mean that just goes to show you how much people still love The Simpsons, and most importantly, still love seeing Maggie in a short like this. Now, I kind of already have touched on this in a short review for the September videos I did last month, so if you want to go check that out, you can find it on this channel easily, but I'm glad I get to do it here, because I get to do a long-form review of it without having to speed it up and all that for time constraints, but this is this was the first official Simpsons film that went straight to theaters after the Simpsons movie. This was the first Simpsons short that was actually brought to theaters in general. One of two, actually. The other one with Maggie that came out at the end of at the beginning of the last decade with Onward, but we're still a long way from that. But in this one, though, Maggie is enrolled in a new daycare facility, basically back at the same place she was in A Streetcar Named Marge, the Ayn Rand School for Tots, where she squares off with her foul-tempered enemy, Baby Gerald, when she befriends a caterpillar. And Maggie, of course, you know, she wants to be in this room for gifted babies, but because of a machine manufactured by often wrong technologies that classifies her as average intelligence, she's forced into this nothing special dreary corner where she comes across Gerald, who loves to squish and kill butterflies with a mallet on the wall, and then just uses a marker to, like, put a square on there to make it look like a picture. So essentially, Maggie finds a little caterpillar, and she reads in a pop-up book that this caterpillar will eventually become a butterfly, which basically means that this is Gerald's next victim. So Maggie does whatever it takes to essentially prevent him from doing that, and it goes through a little chaotic little adventure for Maggie, and then she finally tries to get him out of the nursery, and just as she's about to do it, Gerald smashes the window down on the butterfly, effectively killing it. Or so we think. Maggie goes away in despair, and Gerald thinks he's won, and then he realizes that Maggie switched out the little bow on her head with the butterfly, and so he's stunned by that, and then the butterfly flies away, and yeah, I pretty much gave you the short in general, but it's a really good short. I love the animation on this in general, and I love the fact that this is essentially a Pixar short that feels like something from Disney many years before Disney eventually became involved with The Simpsons. I mean, it's a really good, fun short, very funny, great animation all across the board, some great storytelling overall, and it is just really cool to see The Simpsons back on the big screen again, even if it's for a little short like this. I mean, just now we just got the Simpsons Movie 2 news coming out in 2027, which I'm really excited to see that, just because, not only because it's The Simpsons, but it's also because of a 2D animated movie back on the big screen, which is really hard to come by. And even back in 2012, that was really hard to see a 2D animated short on the big screen. And, you know, seeing that on the big screen made that enjoyment of watching Ice Age Continental Drift a little bit better. Like, honestly, if I could have easily just left the movie after this Longest Daycare short and just go walking around the Mills Mall when I went to go see this one. Because I did see it when we had the Pittsburgh Mills Mall had the theater back there to see this at. Yeah, I could have just left after that, but I stuck with it thinking, well, I'd say, surely I'll get some enjoyment factors out of this, and, no, not so much. But, hey, at least we got a great Simpsons short out of it. The Longest Daycare is a great animated short, and, yeah, I really enjoyed the hell out of it. And it certainly is the much better feature that you're going to get in this double feature that also included Ice Age Continental Drift. So, take that for what you will. Yes, the infamous battle to figure out what the hell they were saying in the background there. Was it Dishy, Basara? We didn't know for a long period of time. Hell, some people still don't know. It's been, 13 years since this movie's come out? Some people still don't know what it is. But, yeah, if you want to know what it is, Dishy, Basara, which basically means rise up. So with all that said, welcome to Time About the Movies. We are taking a look at the one big new release of July 20th, 2012, and that's, of course, The Dark Knight Rises. And it's big for several reasons. Some of them are good, some of them are extremely controversial, some of them, one of them in particular led to a massive shooting that happened, but we'll touch in on all of that as we go along here. Let's talk about the movie first, because there's a lot to delve into with this particular film. You know, this movie, you know, DC's movie run had been kind of on a little bit of a lull. You know, they had bad movies like Jonah Hill, Green Lantern, The Losers. They were hoping that once The Dark Knight Rises came out, their big cash cow with Batman, everything was going to come up Millhouse. And while the movie did very well with most critics and audiences, it was a major hit at the box office, it just wasn't on that same successful level as The Dark Knight was. Not to mention, it also didn't help that on the day that this came out, there was a horrific tragedy in Aurora, Colorado, at a movie theater where somebody shot up the theater, killed people, and it essentially affected the box office that particular weekend. The studio didn't even release the estimates for that weekend. That's how big that controversial thing was. That's how big that happened there. It wasn't even a controversy. That's how devastating that tragedy was. That Hollywood basically just said, we're not even going to push the results out there. We're just going to let the weekend pass, let people get back on track and try to get back to normal. And yeah, that was a pretty big deal back then. That was such a controversial thing that they had the trailer for Gangster Squad on. There's literally a scene in the movie where you have these gangsters shooting up a movie theater in the trailer. And Warner Bros. Basically said, you got to take that shit out, man. You got to take that out. And you have to re-edit it. We have to hold this movie off and re-edit it. And it would come out later on to start the year off. But again, we'll get to that once we get to Gangster Squad in 2013. Let's actually talk about the movie itself. So the film takes place about 8 years after the events of The Dark Knight and introduces Catwoman and Bane as the villains. And despite his tarnished reputation after the events of The Dark Knight, in which he took the rap for the crimes of Harvey Dent, Batman, once again played by Christian Bale, feels compelled to intervene to assess the city as police force, which is struggling to cope with Bane, played by Tom Hardy, and his plans to destroy the city, with the assistance of Catwoman, played by Anne Hathaway. This was a landmark movie for me because it was the first movie where I let all the hype and anticipation when it first came out skip past me, and I could just enjoy the movie for what it was, and also marked the first time I decided I only had one hope for a sequel. This was the first time I ever thought about this with a film, because I've been so burned by some other sequels in the past, but, my first thought was, just be as good as the previous film. If it's as good as the previous film, I'll give them points. If it's better, I'll give them points for that. If it's bad, I'll say it's bad. That was a pretty big deal for me back there when I was trying to hone my reviewing craft in general. And so with that, how did I feel about the film in general? Well, let me start out by apologizing to Christopher Nolan, the cast of the film, and the rest of the people behind the product when I said The Dark Knight should be the last Batman film, because honestly, son of a bitch did it. He really did it. He made an incredible trilogy off of these films that's on the level of Toy Story, The Lord of the Rings, even The Godfather. You managed to put together an amazing trilogy that tells a really great story from beginning to end. You tied up all the loose ends and gave us a very satisfying conclusion. I think this is a really good movie. I think it's not quite as good as The Dark Knight, but it's still a really good film overall. Let's get to the problems I have, because I do have some problems with the film in general. First off, the pacing, I don't think it's as strong as the previous films are. Batman Begins and The Dark Knight knew when to stop scenes when they needed to and kept the story going. Here, you can tell the pacing starts to have scenes continue long after they should have stopped. The story really doesn't move at the quick enough pace that the other two films did. It kind of reminded me somewhat of the other sequel that Warner Brothers did in the last year, which was Happy Feet 2. I'm not even kidding. You have a community of people trapped by something. In Happy Feet 2, it was the polar ice caps melting, and in here, it's Bane and his crew destroying all the bridges in town, and the rest of both films is just spent trying to get people out of this disaster area or trying to survive. What does that say when you're lifting plot elements from, of all things, Happy Feet 2? That was something that really took me off. Second, I thought there were too many new characters in this. I'm not talking about Bane or Catwoman, but all the other new people in here kind of felt like they were forced in there because they had worked with Christopher Nolan in the past, specifically on Inception. In fact, the whole movie in general has kind of that Inception vibe to it. You saw it in the trailer there with the Batman logo and the buildings crumbling down and all that, but I thought I had way too many people in here just for the hell of it. I couldn't tell who was going to die towards the end of it with some of them, and I was also wondering, why didn't they just bring back why'd they bring back Cillian Murphy again? What was the point of him being involved in this movie? In the last film, there was no reason for him to come back whatsoever, but here he's just kind of thrown in there as a sentencer, and that's about it. He's there for no particular reason except to just be a guy who sentences people to prison or death or something like that, but it's just kind of what are we even doing here? There is also a point in the movie where Bane reveals the commissioner's letters that he got about the story about Harvey Dent, and revealing that Batman actually saved Gordon and his family from the evil Dent, who threatened to kill them as revenge for what happened to Rachel in The Dark Knight. A good idea, but it wasn't as well thought out as I thought it could have been. There should have been more built up of what they gave us. Also, there's a reveal to Marion Cotillard, who she plays in the movie, and all I can think to myself is, we're doing the villain thing again with her. She wasn't that great of a villain in Inception. I like this actress overall, but man, when she plays a villain, she just isn't it, man. Like, this movie, that's one of the big things that really took me off guard with this movie, and how much I really didn't like it, like parts of it. Like, I hated Cotillard's performance in this, in Inception, because she's not good playing a villain. I mean, she's a great actress, but she can't play villain roles. Like, she just can't, and when they reveal that she's in on the whole thing, my literally first thought was, oh, you gotta be kidding me, man. Like, if I could figure that out beforehand, then we clearly got a problem here. And I'm sorry, like I said, I like Marion Cotillard. I think she's a terrific actress. She should not be playing villain roles anymore, because, man, this is another one, like in Inception, where she just misses the mark completely. She's not threatening whatsoever, and it felt like they forced her in there because we have to throw in some more twists in there to keep the audience invested. And I'm sorry, that's a failure on their part there. So yeah, those are my complaints about the film, but I do have a lot of good stuff about it. I like the cast overall that they do have. Christian Bale, I thought, gave his best overall performance as Batman in here. They did a good job of giving him a chance to, like, you know, evolve as the character, and what eventually happens leads into sort of a retread of Batman Begins. Like, it's nowhere like what they did with Andrew Garfield recently in The Amazing Spider-Man, where they pretty much took the origin story and redid it. They actually added new twists and turns with it. You know, Tom Hardy was great as Bane. Like, he's not the insane, crazy person that the Joker is, but when he's the kind of enemy who's scary quiet, that works really well. Like, he's not raising his voice unless he needs to, and when he does, you can't help but be scared of this guy. You can easily understand him, too, unlike what other people were saying. Like, there was this whole controversy about whether or not people could understand this guy, and really, you had no trouble hearing of him whatsoever. I mean, I was lucky enough to hear him for the first time when I did the bit as the extra in The Dark Knight Rises, which I'll get into that a little bit later on here. I'll show you that part in just a second, but yeah, I had no problems with him whatsoever as that. Well, I don't think he was anywhere near the level of Heath Ledger's Joker. He made that character all his own and made Tom Hardy the badass that he really is, because Tom Hardy is a badass actor, no question about it. I thought Anne Hathaway was very good as Catwoman. Like with Tom Hardy, she makes that character Catwoman her own. And, you know, she's got that great mix of being the good guy and the bad guy. And Hathaway, at that point, was really the best Catwoman we had seen up until Zoe Kravitz did it later on in The Batman in 2022. I thought Michael Caine was also really good in this, too. Even though he doesn't have as many scenes like everybody else does, the little bits he's in, he knocks it out of the park. And, yeah, it would have been nice to see more of him in this, but for what they were trying to go with here, I bought into it, and I thought it worked very well. Of course, Gary Oldman's really good in here. You got Joseph Gordon-Levitt doing a good job in this role as the new guy they bring in here. Who basically ends up becoming sort of, they were kind of setting him up to be kind of like the Dick Grayson of the movie in general. But you know, Morgan Freeman's pretty good in here. Even Liam Neeson's got a good cameo in this as well. The action was at its best. At about 1/3 of the film, the action picks up big time. There were even points where I could feel my heart pounding, particularly that football scene, which I'll touch more on that in just a second, not just because I was there, but the way it's presented, the way the music is playing, the way the build-up is building, like, that's a good build-up to what happens in that football stadium. And the climax overall is really good. There's just so much in the second and third acts of this that just takes your breath away. You can't take your eyes off of it. Every scene where Batman is riding the Batplane, it's amazing to watch. Hans Zimmer, I think, does a great job with the score once again. He's got a lot of the same elements bringing into the first two films, with a nice share of quiet music played to haunting effects. It's really well done. And I'll give him credit to taking the huge risk with Batman. There's that great sequence where Batman gets his back broken by Bane. I mean, it's not phoned in whatsoever. It feels legitimately real. Like, you do feel like this guy has been going through it all and seeing it all and going through it all, and it just works, man. It just works on so many levels. Like, it never felt like it was brought in there just for the fan base. No, they did it for a purpose. It works to a T. I never thought there'd be a darker, grittier film than Dark Knight, but this one surprisingly does. And again, the final climax is friggin' amazing. It was action-packed. It had a lot of great twists and turns to it. At this point, nothing and no one is safe. You don't know who's going to make it. You don't know what the outcome is going to be, what Gotham will be like at the end. The last 10 minutes alone nailed everything. And it was one of the more emotional moments of the movie. I actually started crying when I first saw this movie the first time, knowing that this was really the end of this universe that Nolan had given us. I mean, you know, Commissioner Gordon finds out that Batman has helped him out for years. You know, he's actually the same kid whose parents were murdered by Joe Chill. And I thought they did a good job of showing that Joseph Gordon-Levitt was going to become Robin, and they gave all the main characters closure. Yeah, it's not as good as The Dark Knight, but it's a perfect ending to one of the greatest trilogies in motion picture history. My congratulations to everyone who made this movie. I thought they did a fantastic job. You know, despite its flaws, it's still one of the best Batman movies ever. I mean, it's still one of the best DC movies ever. It's one of Christopher Nolan's another movie that gives that great track record for Christopher Nolan as a whole. I'm not going to say it's his best movie overall, because the guy has made so much better than this, but, I mean, the guy is practically perfect no matter what he does, but, you know, with the end of this franchise, you really were expecting to see, I was really waiting to see what was going to happen next. What were they going to do with Batman next? And, unfortunately, what they did next with The Dark Knight was, not the best overall, but we'll save that when Zack Snyder begins his DC Snyderverse, whatever you want to call it, next year. But, yeah. In the meantime, we do have an incredible conclusion to one of the greatest film trilogies in movie history, and with that, Batman's run of the movies comes to an end for the time being. Could the same thing be done with Superman? As after all, there is a Man of Steel reboot coming out next year. We'll touch on that when we get to 2013. But that's my thoughts on The Dark Knight Rises. Really great film. Can't recommend it enough. So, with all that said, thank you so much for watching this. This has been another episode of Time About the Movies. And the next time we meet, we will take a look at a couple more movies to wrap up July. More than a couple, 5 of them to be exact. We have the star-studded comedy The Watch with Vince Vaughn, Ben Stiller, and Jonah Hill, which should be a good movie, but doesn't turn out to be. The Step Up Gang is back in a brand new movie, Step Up Revolution. We have the follow-up for Jonathan Dayton and Valerie Faris after Little Miss Sunshine with Ruby Sparks. We also have Killer Joe, one of Matthew McConaughey's big redemption movies in 2012, and also Searching for Sugarman, the documentary that won Best Documentary that year. We'll take a look at all 5 of those movies. That'll be coming up tomorrow on the show. So, until then, thank you for watching this. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please go ahead and do me the honors of hitting that like button, that subscribe button, that notification button. Also, don't forget to check out our playlist, and don't forget to check out the last episode we did. And I will leave you with a Reviewing Network Live snippet from one of the episodes I did, talking about my experience as an extra on The Dark Knight Rises. So, let's take a look at that, and I'll see you guys next time. Until then, whether it's in the past, the present, or the future, I will see you at the movies. Take care. I might as well talk about an anniversary that happened today that I didn't realize until now when I looked on my Facebook page, and that was the fact that it was 12 years ago today that I was an extra on the set of The Dark Knight Rises, and that was probably one of my favorite days that I've ever had in my life. And basically what happened is, and I saw a picture that I took from that day that happened, and I'll show you that in a little bit, but I'll kind of delve into what actually happened. I'm going to talk about how I became an extra. So basically, the local news around here, WPXI, was talking about them. They were advertising the production team behind The Dark Knight Rises. They were looking for unpaid extras to take part in a fictional football game between the Gotham Rogues and the Rapid City Marauders. And I wasn't going to let that opportunity get away from me. So I actually signed up a few weeks prior to this. And after I signed up, they gave me my set. They gave me my info pack. They basically told me what to wear. I couldn't wear anything with like a name brand on it, so I couldn't have anything from Nike. I couldn't wear anything with characters on it, per se. They just said dress in, I think it was dress in black, dress in yellow. So, the Saturday of the shoot finally comes along, and I took a shuttle bus from the Mellon Arena back then, right next to PPG Paints Arena, down to Heinz Field, which had been transformed for the day as Gotham City. I had to get up there. I got up at 5 a.m. in the morning that day, and I had to be there by 6:30 in the morning, which luckily, 5 a.m. in the morning, the traffic getting from where I am to downtown Pittsburgh is not a big deal because the traffic hasn't settled in yet. So we get there around 6:30 in the morning, and I arrived at the field around 7, and I sat down in one of the numerous seats, and you could tell the stadium did look very different. Parts of the field were actually lifted up. If you've seen The Dark Knight Rises, you know how the scene is set up. There were signs from the Gotham Rogues all over the place. There were, band displays all over the place, and there were fans in Gotham face paint and makeup, and it's interesting because the stadium was never full. I would say there was probably about maybe 20,000 people there for the day, all day, maybe even more, but the Heinz Field seats about usually, well, back then this was called Heinz Field. I know now it's called Acrisure Stadium, but the seats around them were about 65,000 people for a football game, and about half of them were filled for much of the day. There'd be some areas where people would go to one corner of the they would film in one corner of the area where, one area was filled up with a lot of people, and we just sit there, be waiting. And so you have director Christopher Nolan there. He's there with the producers, the cinematographers, the director of photography, and the special effects witches, along with some other crew members. And you have the Gotham Rogues, who were actual players from the Steelers then, Ben Roethlisberger, Hines Ward, Troy Polamalu, Heath Miller, James Harrison, Lamar Woodley. More of them. Hines Ward, he was bigger than he's ever been, because at that point he had won Dancing with the Stars. He had a double on the set for him. And you also had Bill Cowher there coming back to the city as the coach of the Rogues. And you had the mayor at the time, Luke Ravenstahl, the Pittsburgh mayor, kicking as the Rapid City Marauders. And they were all there. And finally, after everything had settled in, around 7:30 in the morning, they started shooting. And the first thing they shot was the national anthem, which was sung by this young kid. I still don't remember the name, C.J. Coyne, because you kept hearing the announcer talking about, please rise for our national anthem, sung by C.J. Coyne. And we had to do this scene around 8 times. 6 at the start and then 2 more over the course of the day. And something that I really noticed about Christopher Nolan when he directs is that he's not like any other director where, he's just sitting in a chair near the camera making sure the scene goes the way he wants to. Like, you see that in a lot of movies and TV shows where you see the director just sitting there in the camera. He's got his, he's got his hand up to his chin like, yes, continue on doing this. And no, Christopher Nolan, he's basically walking around the camera making sure the shot he wants is right. And I thought that was really interesting to see that from a director there. And it's interesting to see that in person. And so after the national anthem, where we had to move twice around the stadium like everyone else did, at around 9:30, they moved us one last time. And I was really lucky that I got a seat right near the end zone where you could see the scoreboard straight ahead. Like, I had one of the best seats in the house. Like, this is the area where, like, if you were any closer, you'd be on the field. That's how good this place was. There was one bad thing that happened, though, and that was that the sun was out all day long. On that day, it was 87 degrees outside, and we all had to wear coats and winter gear because the movie takes place in the wintertime, and so you're trying to act like it's wintertime when it's like almost 90 degrees outside. That is not an easy thing to do, and I envy those people that have to go. I envy those people. I envy those actors who do that. That is not an easy thing to do from seeing it in person. But so they then ended up shooting crowd shots, cheers and applause from the audience for the soundtrack to the scene. And then after that, the next scene was the kickoff of the football game, where Hines Ward is playing himself behind the back of the shirt. It says Ward on it, catches the ball and runs in for the touchdown. And this scene takes about 7 takes to shoot in the span of an hour. So they did that, and then after that, they prepared us for this big explosion shot where the stadium explodes. We have numerous practices takes to prepare for the explosions with the announcers making the explosion sounds, because they give you these earplugs so you can put them in your ears while the explosion is happening. So it took them 3 hours to put all these explosives on the field, and there were about, I want to say, 35 different explosives ready to blow up. So while they were preparing for the scene, they actually bought out the 3 different tumblers that Batman uses in the film, with the second one featuring Hines Ward on top of one of them. And during the breaks in between shootings, they even gave out free t-shirts, raffle prizes like a flat-screen TV, tickets to the Dark Knight premiere in either Los Angeles and New York, round-trip Delta tickets, portable DVD players, iPod shuffles, iPod touches, Batman memorabilia, movie memorabilia, vintage trading cards, comic books. They even gave away a Chrysler car, too, and I didn't end up winning one of those major raffle prizes, but I did end up winning a free t-shirt, even though it won't fit me. But I still have that it's in here somewhere, so I don't know where exactly it might be at. But the interesting thing is that the part of the stadium where I was sitting, the production assistant for our section was nowhere to be found, and the PAs were responsible for throwing everybody free t-shirts, and because the PA announcer was nowhere to be found, people went crazy trying to get this t-shirt. They asked more for the t-shirts rather than the raffle prizes. And when they finally had someone come up and give away the t-shirts, I was lucky enough to catch one of them. But again, it was too small for me to wear. But also on the stadium's Jumbotron, they actually played the Dark Knight Rises trailer on the big screen, which made up for the fact that when I went to see Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1, when that came out, there was no trailer for that in front of that movie, and I was really bummed out because I really wanted to see that on a big screen. But I saw it on the stadium's Jumbotron, and I figured that's the closest thing I'm ever going to get to see that trailer on the big screen. And when that name came up, it felt like a Comic-Con panel. People just lost their minds and cheered like crazy. So finally, after 3 hours of putting the explosives on the field, they gave us 3 more practice shots without the explosives going off, because it's a one-shot only scene. For obvious reasons. So after all that, we finally shoot it with the explosion. They told everybody to act scared and panic, and that's what we did. But then again, if you had explosions going off with the noise that came afterwards, I don't think you really need people to act scared and panic because, well, obviously for the obvious reasons. And like I said, they gave us earplugs for people to cover the ears, and after the explosions ended, the field was covered with dust all over the place, dirt all over the place. And then 5:30 in the afternoon finally came around, and they began shooting the last scene of the day, and that was the arrival of Tom Hardy as Bane, which, coming out from under the area where the players walk out of the locker rooms and looking around, letting out some dialogue, and then killing a man by breaking his neck. And the interesting thing is that when Bane came out for that scene, it was the first time anyone had seen Tom Hardy on set and seen him as Bane for the first time, and the crew asked us to act as if the character was Bane was right there and not shout and holler and cheer for Hardy, which, I mean, it went about as much as you'd expect. The shot was done, the stadium roared with applause as the crew was introduced to Hardy. It was the second film he ever shot in Pittsburgh, with the first one being Warrior, which is an underrated film that came out around that same time. And then after we finished shooting the scene 4 takes later, he helped give away the car at the end of the day. And so the day came to an end with Hardy and Christopher Nolan thanking everybody for coming out, bearing the heat, and he helped to give away tickets to the Dark Knight premiere. So we were there for about 12 and a half hours, pretty much, so because we left around 7. The stadium, and then the worst part of the whole experience began, and that was trying to leave the stadium. And I walked down the walkway to leave the stadium, and all you could see is the back of people's heads trying to get out of there. There was like only 3 different lines, and the largest and longest one to get out of was to get back to the Civic Arena, the Mellon Arena. But there were so many people there, not to mention the fact that it was still humid out. Keep in mind, this is still August, so the sun was still out, and a couple people actually passed out because of the humidity and the heat. So I waited in line for 45 minutes. I was literally standing in a line waiting to get on the shuttle bus for 45 minutes, and it was ridiculous. They needed more assistants to help control the lines better. There were only 3 assistants out there to guide everyone to the 3 buses going to the 3 different places. So you sit there for 45 minutes. You're still in this winter getup because you have to keep pretending that it's still winter time, even though you could take the clothes off, those clothes off, but it's still hot out, and the heat and the humidity, it just takes a lot out of you. It took a lot out of me. So finally, around 8:30, I finally make it back to the Civic Arena, and then I make it back to home. Got home around 10:30, and I was so tired after I got my shower. I basically went to bed at 11 o'clock and slept for almost 12 hours that next day. I mean, I'm a person that usually likes to stay up until about 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, but I was just so pooped, and I was just like, I can't take it anymore. I gotta go to bed. And so after all that, I woke up the next morning feeling a lot better, and besides the pain in the ass way to get out of the stadium, it was still one of the best days I ever had. It's a great time experiencing watching them make this movie of what I was hoping was going to be a great movie, which was a good movie. It wasn't the great film that The Dark Knight was. The Dark Knight is still the pinnacle of the Batman Nolan trilogy, but it was still a good film regardless, and I'm very happy to tell people that I was an extra in the film, even though you can't see me in the movie. But it's one of those moments that whenever I see that scene on TV, I just have to go back and reminisce about that day, and it was worth it. Like, would I do it again? I mean, it would depend on what the movie is and when they shoot it because of my work schedule and all that. I don't know if I could do what I had to do there, sitting out in the heat for an entire day in 87-degree weather, and my face was like totally sunburned after that, and it was pretty rough on my body, but it's one of those days I'll never forget. That's one of my favorite days of my entire life, was being on the set of that movie, and that happened 12 years ago today.
There is an alien invasion happening. They're among us. That's why I founded the Neighborhood Watch. Any one of these people could be an alien. Check her out. It's like she's studying some new discovery. Should I put it in my flavor snout? Wait a second, I've seen this stuff before.
Had he just won Nickelodeon's Kids' Choice Award?
Here we go. Jackets for the watch.
Tiger with wings.
The tiger, flames, and wings, all in the same logo. It's like the Chinese symbol for shut up and dance.
Franklin, what are you doing? Who are these people?
Damn it, Mom, stay out of my room!
I'm sorry, Mila. I was trying to impress my friends. I was trying to be a big man. Shh. I have this one scenario in my mind. Sexy Asian housewife alone at night. Best call than watch. And then she sucks.
Okay, well, I'm also interested in that happening to me.
We're not going to let Glenview be ground zero for some alien invasion.
We can't trust anyone. Look at his face. Look at my face. Look at his face and listen to me. Look at him and listen to me. Look at me. Look at me.
Look at him and understand me. Look at both of us but understand no one. Listen to my words and hear his face.
I found something.
Nobody touches this ball until we figure out what it is. Whoa! Gee, that's terrible for the cow, but this thing's awesome. And first thing in war's lost is innocence.
Yeah! Anything from outer space, kill it.
Die! Die! This thing's a goner for sure.
So you can kind of see the potential with this particular film, but yeah, you have to watch the movie to realize that, yeah, this really isn't that great. Welcome to Time About the Movies, everybody. Today we are taking a look at the 5 films that make up July 27, 2012. We start off with The Watch, previously known as Neighborhood Watch. We'll delve into why that was changed in just a moment, but it stars Ben Stiller, Vince Vaughn, Jonah Hill, and Richard Ayoade from the IT crowd, if you will, as a group of neighbors who form a suburban neighborhood watch group when they uncover an extraterrestrial discovery. In the trailer, you see them all talking about how, you know, there's aliens all among them, and you got a pretty good idea for an interesting movie here. I mean, it's directed by Akiva Schaffer, who gave us Hot Rod. Just recently, of course, he gave us The Naked Gun. Jared Stern, one of the writers of the Lego Movie. Seth Rogen, Evan Goldberg. Of course, they've written a lot of great stuff. A cast that also includes Rosemary DeWitt and the late Arlie Ermey. This is actually the last thing he was in before he died. So, there are a lot of pieces there for a really good movie. So what went wrong? Right from the beginning of the marketing campaign, pretty much, because we're not even kidding around here when we say this, but the movie's marketing campaign began in early February with the title Neighborhood Watch, but then they changed it because of the Trayvon Martin shooting. I'm not even kidding, that's actually what they did. A month after they started the marketing campaign, there was the George Zimmerman shooting Trayvon Martin, and so basically they changed the entire marketing campaign and made it specifically about the alien premise of the movie instead of the film's leads, and the film's title eventually was changed over to The Watch. That was the first thing that went wrong with this movie. The second thing that went wrong, the movie itself came out, and it was a jumbled mess of a movie, man. It has a lot of the same problems that the movie Evolution had 11 years prior. A movie that had a good concept overall, but really felt like there was something missing in terms of the story. There was something missing with the comedy in general. There's a lot of product placements in this movie. Jokes that are just lame, gross-out humor jokes for the sake of being lame, gross-out humor jokes. I mean, I could see in the end where they're shooting the alien is funny, but then they extend this gag to unbearable levels when they have a party, when they have, like, parties with it, they take pictures with it, and not realizing that the alien's alive. Like, if there was actually something funny with it, then maybe I could give it a shot here, but I'd give it a fair balance, but it just wasn't there with this movie, man. This thing started off actually as a teen-targeted project before it eventually saw different people coming in here. So it was a script that was written all over the place, that was completely all over the place, really had no potential to really get going, even with the star talent that they had involved in here. These are all very funny people, but they're just given nothing to do here except just be lazy, have gross-out humor for the sake of gross-out humor, and that's about it. I mean, this movie sucks, man. This was a big, big disappointment overall. And, you know, some people will say that, oh, because we had the Aurora, Colorado shootings the week before, the movie was going to flop anyway. Well, the movie was going to flop even if that shooting didn't happen. Let's just be honest with you. This is a lame movie, which wastes a lot of good talent, a lot of good people from writer, director to star. It's a waste of time. It's a complete waste of time, a major disappointment, a major letdown on so many levels. So, yeah, you could skip The Watch, and you should probably do so. So, with that said, let's go ahead and move on to our next movie. How about some fun times all around? Step Up Revolution.
No way to shout. It's like us saying, listen up. We exist. On July 27th.
I want in.
Join the revolution.
Revolution. Rated PG-13 in 3D and 2D theaters July 27.
Yes, the fourth installment of the Step Up series, and if you've seen the other Step Up movies, then you pretty much got an idea of what you're going to get with this particular film. In this movie, the mob sets the dancing against the vibrant backdrop of Miami. Emily arrives in Miami with aspiration of becoming a professional dancer, and soon falls in love with Sean, played by Ryan Guzman, a young man who leads a dance crew in elaborate cutting-edge flash mobs called the Mob. When a wealthy businessman, played by Peter Gallagher, threatens to develop the mob's historic neighborhood and displace thousands of people, Emily must work together with Sean and the mob to turn their performance art into protest art and risk losing their dreams to fight for a greater cause. So, it's essentially a breaking sequel. I mean, it's literally the type of movie that South Park literally made fun of with the episode Aspen, the whole thing about, saving the rec center and all that by throwing down the K-13. It's pretty much that type of a storyline here. And, yeah, it's pretty, story-wise it's pretty lame, but you're not really going into this to the story overall. You're here to see the dancing scenes here, and they are really elaborate and really cool to look at. I mean, these are very nicely put together scenes, and in 3D, that's a ton of fun to watch overall. You've got some recognizable younger talents in here. Like I said, Ryan Guzman. You have Twitch in here, Tommy Dewey, Cleopatra Coleman from The Last Man on Earth, and most recently in Clipped on Hulu. I mean, there's a lot of good talent in this movie, and again, you're really just going in here specifically for the dancing scenes, and they're in 3D too, and they are fun dancing scenes overall, and for that, I give the movie a fair shake on that. I mean, it's a movie that's built to be just a silly fun time overall, considering what had happened the week before, and everything that had been going on up to that point, in terms of, like, these shootings and all that. This is a nice little break from the action, from the reality of the world, and just going in there, having a good time with it. Don't go in there expecting a great story overall. If you go into it watching for the cool dance sequences and great musical numbers, then you get it in this movie. It's a movie that's clearly knows what its audience is and knows that it's not going in there for anything too deep or anything too groundbreaking. It's really fun overall. I really enjoy it. Step Up Revolution. What more can you say? So now let's get to easily the best movie of the week. It's the follow-up for Jonathan Dayton and Valerie Ferris after A Little Bit Sunshine. This is Ruby Sparks.
Why do you think you're not writing?
I don't know. I get a good idea, and then, bam, I start thinking that is the stupidest thing ever.
Tell me about it.
Ruby Sparks, 26 years old, raised in Dayton, Ohio.
Why Dayton?
Sounds romantic. Ruby got kicked out of high school for sleeping with her art teacher, or maybe her Spanish teacher. I haven't decided yet.
I'm glad you found something that inspires you.
It inspires me. It's like I'm falling in love with her.
That's wonderful.
I can't fall in love with a girl I write.
Why not?
She's not real.
I missed you in bed last night. Did you get some good writing done? Calvin, are you mad at me?
Remember how Dad used to say I had an overactive imagination? That's Calvin, there's no possible way that Ruby's in your house because she's not a real person. Can you see her? She's real. Ruby!
What is going on with you?
I don't know. I'm sorry.
You're so sick.
There's got to be some logical explanation.
People don't appear out of thin air.
She did.
How?
I don't know how. It's love. It's magic.
Have you tried writing more?
Write something about her and see if it comes true. If it does, this is a miracle.
That was insane! You manifested a woman with your mind.
You can make her do anything you want.
For men everywhere. Tell me you're not going to let that go to waste. This is the true and impossible story of my very great love, Ruby Sparks. You may see this and think it's magic. But falling in love is an act of magic. You don't know jack about women.
I know Ruby.
I wrote her.
Just don't tell me how it ends, okay?
I won't. I promise.
So you got a little bit of a mix here between not just Little Miss Sunshine, but also Stranger in Fiction, and also a little bit of weird science in there as well. And from the premise, you can definitely see why. Paul Dano stars as an anxious novelist whose fictional character, Ruby Sparks, played by Zoe Kazan, who also wrote the script for this, comes to life and struggles to reconcile his ideal vision of her with her increasing independence. And I mean, this isn't quite as good as Little Miss Sunshine is, but you know, it's been 6 years since their last movie together, and the fact that they waited this long to make a film like this, and it turns out to be a really solid film. You do buy into the chemistry between Paul Dano and Zoe Kazan. You do buy into Paul Dano believing that he can't believe that this woman that he created is literally here. I mean, it's also kind of a precursor to something like Her, which would come out the year later. Has kind of a similar concept overall, except that's done with AI, and this is done with a real person. But you also have a cast that also includes a lot of notable names in here. Chris Messina, Annette Bening, Antonio Banderas, Steve Coogan, Elliot Gould. All very good in here. And the film is very well done. It is definitely a nice, heartwarming, heartfelt film that, again, kind of got pushed off to the side once Her came out, because Her kind of had a similar concept to it in terms of the similar storyline and all that. But kind of like with Stranger Than Fiction, this is a really good, underrated film, and one that I think definitely deserves a lot more attention. These two directors really have not missed overall as directors, because they followed this up with Battle of the Sexes with Steve Carell and Emma Stone, which was about the battle between, I think it was John McEnroe Billie Jean King and Bobby Riggs, and it was a really good movie. Again, kind of got pushed off to the side and didn't have the same kind of box office success or critical success that Little Miss Sunshine or even this movie did, but it was still a really good movie. These two have not missed as directors, and they do take their time to find the perfect project, and so far, being 3 for 3, they have done a very good job of creating the right project overall, and this is another real winner overall. One of my favorite movies of the year, one of my favorite romantic comedies. I really enjoyed the hell out of this one. Ruby Sparks, can't recommend this one enough. Definitely check it out. So, let's go ahead and move on to our next movie, and it's Matthew McConaughey in Killer Joe.
Joe Cooper got a little business on the side.
What you do?
He kills people.
Who's the murder we're talking about?
Who would like to say grace? Killer Joe.
Hello, Joe. Sorry, I had a Simpsons joke there, but I did not remember. I completely forgot. This was directed by William Friedkin. This was actually the last movie he directed before his death in 2023. And you know, he had the success early on with The French Connection and The Exorcist, and then his career kind of dipped a little bit in the 90s and 2000s. But you know, hey, at least he ends his career on a high note here. This is written by Tracy Letts, a very underrated character actor that you see in a lot of different movies and all that. And you know, you could forget that he's a writer too, and he wrote this along with another movie that came out, I think, the following year, August Osage County too. But yeah, this was around the time when Matthew McConaughey's career was kind of on a rebound with this and Magic Mike and also Bernie. But this is one that I think kind of gets pushed off to the side a little bit, but man, is it a really good movie. You got the estranged family of a woman, played by Juno Temple, scheming to kill her in order to collect on her life insurance policy, and conspiring with a corrupt police officer, played by Matthew McConaughey, to do the deed. In addition, you have Emile Hirsch, Gina Gershon, and Thomas Hayden Church. Was it actually her that did this, or was it somebody else? I need to do some research here. Hold on one second. No, I was right. It was Juno Temple in here who, yeah, talk about a career renaissance in the 15 years since between year one and now, because she killed it in Fargo, and it's hard to believe that Michael Cera's girlfriend in year one has gone on to become one of those actresses that you see her in something that you're there right there, because she is a menacing force, but she's also, like, she's beautiful. She's that type of beautiful menace that plays well into a story like this. Like, it's a beautiful looking woman, but you know she's got something sinister behind her in this case here, and it plays to that very, very well here. I think everybody in this movie does a fantastic job. You know, Matthew McConaughey in particular, another movie that just shows you that, hey, this guy was a great dramatic actor back in the day, and he still can be. Like, this was when he was completely going away from the romantic comedies and going to what he does best, and that's just being a great dramatic actor that would eventually pave the way for him to get the Oscar for Dallas Buyers Club the following year. And again, you forget that William Friedkin directed this movie, and way to go out on a high note after a kind of a lackluster 20 years within your last really good movie overall, and now this. I mean, this is a really, really good movie, a very tension-filled movie, a good mystery that keeps you on the edge of your seat, lots of good talent all across the board. Not much more I can really add to this that hasn't already been said already. It's a terrific film, amazingly put together. Killer Joe, definitely a very underrated film that's worth checking out. So let's go ahead and move on to our last movie that we have here, which is a documentary, Searching for Sugarman.
Man
Rodriguez built a strong local following in South Africa and became a true folk hero in the 70s and the 80s. Searching for Sugar Man contains all Rodriguez's hits. Also included are 3 previously unreleased songs. See the movie, get the soundtrack.
So this is a documentary detailing the efforts in the late 1990s of 2 Cape Town fans, Stephen Sugar Shegeman and Craig Bartholomew Sturdom, to find out whether the rumored death of American musician Sixto Rodriguez was true, and if not, to discover what had become of him. Rodrigo's music, which had never achieved success in the U.S., had become very popular in South Africa, although little was known about him there. And yeah, that's really how I felt when I first saw this the first time. Like, I knew nothing about this guy, but it's a fascinating little documentary. It's done by the same people that did Man on Wire, which is a really good documentary from a couple years ago. It's a really interesting film overall. A film about it's essentially kind of a real-life version of The Simpsons, with Bleeding Gums Murphy, as somebody that nobody really knew about early on, is until he was long gone. And it's something that's kind of fascinating on so many levels. Like, it's a movie that really is a very fascinating look at somebody who was seen as kind of this musical genius in other places except for here. It's kind of like when you see, like, the character of Doraemon very popular all over the place. When when they do something in America, he's not as popular. Like, it's a very fascinating thing. You wonder, like, what happened to this person in general? Like, what is causing this to be the case there? And I think this movie did a very good job of reintroducing him to a lot of people in the world. It's very fascinating music when you really take a listen to it. And, it really makes you wonder, like, what really happened here. And the documentary does a very good job, but it doesn't give you the complete answers overall. It still makes you keep guessing on what happens afterwards. And there's times, and I've said it before with movies that have kind of an ambiguous ending. It works if you keep your audience invested in what's going on here. And a film like this does everything right that something like a movie like a scripted movie like Swing Vote or The Devil Inside does, where it just basically tells you, come up with your own ending, fuckers. Like, no, you listen to this and it's just kind of like, it's very captivating stuff overall. We don't know anything about this guy and what's happened to him since this movie came out. It's still very much a mystery of whatever happened to him, and it's a very interesting film overall. It's definitely one worth checking out. It's definitely one of the best documentaries I've seen. Can't recommend this one enough. Searching for Sugarman. Seek it out if you can. And so on that note, we wrap up another episode of Time About the Movie. What the hell was that? We wrap up another episode of Time About the Movies. I apologize for that, but